Mark Carney has been wrong and exactly wrong, and I have been right. I said 5 years ago the money printing would cause inflation. He said deflation was on the horizon.
3 days already? Ugh, that's unfortunate, but, you know, to celebrate what has happened recently, I just want to take a road down poetry lane, because it's like just watching poetry happen in real time. It is the one thing that I tell you, it gets my waterworks going, because it's just beautiful to listen to in celebration of what has happened here. Let us look at this real quick.
We have dreams. We can see what is possible, unburdened by what has been.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, unburdened by what has been. That's such a beautiful messaging, especially in conjunction to Trudeau being out now. Why did I use eyeglass cleaner? My eyes are burned. Anywho, welcome to today, heyo and welcome. I'm sorry, I am a bit late to, talking about this. I've been busy, alright? Cut me some slack there. But we're gonna be talking about Trudeau getting out of here. Recent Liberal leadership leadership selection has ended.
In first place, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, with 131,674 votes, resulting in 29,457 allocated points, representing 85.9% of the votes.
Now, before we get into that conversation, there's just one thing I saw that I just want to share with y'all, because I thought it was a little bit interesting to look at. It has no relevance to any of this, but it's a little bit funny. To me, at least. I mean, my humor might be a little bit AWOL, perhaps you could say. A little bit gone out to the doghouse and such, because it's not really there half the time. But it's a little bit interesting as to how the law is so haphazardly put together and enforced in Canada. We have ourselves, people who are driving excavators to steal money from a bank and they're not getting stopped. Like, how does that happen exactly here? Like, just
so I came to go to the bank this morning.
They just
and
blew a
this
hole
is what happened.
straight into that bank. Like,
people stole this piece of machinery, and
you know, maybe that's because I'm not like someone who would do this, but how do you go about stealing an excavator? How do you go about doing that? It's random. I mean, it makes sense if you're trying to break into a bank, but it's like, how do you go about stealing that? How do you do it? But to return back to the main topic of conversation, we are no longer burdened by what has been. That being Justin Trudeau. He says, I leave as leader of the Liberal Party with the same belief and hope and hard work as when I started. Hope for this party and for this country because of the millions of Canadians who prove every day that better is always possible. Now you'll notice I sound a little bit on the verge of tears, but I'm just making fun of him acting and crying in the last video of him talking about, I don't know, what was he talking about? But strangely enough, maybe it is not as of the date, but a little bit before the telling of Mark Carney winning the Liberal election, Chrystia Freeland has came out with her own message. And guys, I'm gonna keep on harping about this because it just keeps on happening. But the entirety of the Liberal Party is Orange Man bad. That is their entire party. That's it. That is all they really have. And I'll actually get into something a little bit later about that with Pierre Poilievre talking about Mark Carney and the Liberal Party. But that's all they have. The entire thing they have is Orange Man bad. That's it.
A remarkable wave of patriotism across our country. Canadians are ready to stand for Canada. Canadians are ready to fight for Canada. And I know all of us have one message for Donald Trump tonight. Canada will never be the 51st state.
I'm just gonna cut off there, but I want to state, you know, for everything that the Liberals have claimed, they've been wrong about everything. And here they are claiming we will never be the 51st state. I don't want to draw any conclusion to there, but I mean, if they're lying about everything, who's to say they're not lying about this? Though, to continue on from the Liberal Party of Orange Man Bad, apparently Pierre Poilievre had a rally of his own in London. And unlike Mark Carney, he didn't have to fake any of the numbers, because they just, look at this video, they're just there, packed to the brim with organic people, not people who are just, I guess, paid out by people who are liberal pundits. They're there organically, and there's a lot of them, and the video isn't fake, unlike Mark Carney faking swaths of people. The Liberal Party is just a bunch of nushed, whereas Pierre Poilievre just shows up with a rally, and it is packed. And if that is not a good marker for what is to, in the future, be unburdened by what has been Mark Carney, there's a video that Pierre Poilievre decided to post, which ever so perfectly outlines what has all transpired in, the last 3 months within the Liberal Party and such and stuff.
What economic and diplomatic experience do you have to go up against Donald Trump?
Oh, quite a lot, actually. So I was the Minister of Jobs and Housing in the Harper government, during which time housing cost half as much as it does today. I helped Mr. Harper cut the GST, cut income tax, cut business tax, and balance the budget. Over my time in Parliament, I've been scrutinizing and studying the books on the Public Accounts Committee, the Operations Committee, the Finance Committee. And if you want any proof that my economic ideas are the best, the Liberals are all trying to pretend that they're copying them right before the election. All the big economic questions of the last 5 years, Mark Carney has been wrong and exactly wrong, and I have been right. I said 5 years ago the money printing would cause inflation. He said deflation was on the horizon. I turned out to be right. I said the carbon tax would drive up food prices, and it did. Drove them up 37% faster in Canada than in the United States of America. I was the first parliamentarian to predict that we would have the inflation crisis, while Carney, Freeland, Trudeau, and others were saying that we would not. I was the first one to be, along with my Conservative colleagues, fighting for pipelines. Pipelines now everyone claims that they support after opposing them for the last 10 years. So if Mr. Carney is so smart on economics, how is it that he was so wrong for so long on all of the economic issues? One thing I don't have experience with is taking jobs out of Canada, moving them to the United States, selling out our resource workers to support Middle Eastern resource workers. That's not the kind of experience that I have, but that's not the kind of experience that we want.
Pierre Poilievre just coming in with the good old 1-2 to the entire Liberal Party, and most importantly, Mark Carney, which, it's funny, we've been unburdened by what has been, and yet now we have worse. And here's the other thing. Let's be completely frank. Trudeau isn't actually gone. He's not actually gone. That is such a bunch of malarkey to say that he's gone, he's resigned, he's out of here. That is just a bunch of malarkey at this rate. When Trudeau has been resigned for over a month, and he's just still been spending our money, our taxpayer dollars behind the scenes, like he's been resigned for oodles and oodles and oodles of time, and yet he's just doing things. So, this is just a bunch of malarkey saying that he's actually gone. But, in terms of, I guess, calling Prime Minister, we have been unburdened by what has been, which is Trudeau. But now we are burdened by what hasn't been unburdened yet. That is such a stupid quote. How do you say that as a candidate? How do you say that? That is word salad soup. It is brunch, breakfast, everything in between. It makes absolutely no sense. Nothing. But, anywho, I do have to say, I think the really funny thing is he's saying how the Liberals are now copying what Pierre says, which I agree with. But can we just state, once again, Chrystia Freeland, Liberal Party, they've been lying constantly about things that are blatantly obvious. Carbon emission, or carbon tax isn't gonna increase the grocery bill. That was blatantly going to happen. What do you think? The food transportation conglomerations are not just going to increase prices so they don't have to pay for fuel? Like, that is just complete foolhardiness. It was blatant that was gonna happen. So the Liberals were just outright lying about that. And this is once again why the statement of being common sense is just completely perfect. Because it is common sense. That was common sense that was gonna happen. It didn't take much of my brain cell to figure that one out. I didn't have to get the Einstein out for that. I didn't have to go and find a grave of a person who I shall not name because probably shouldn't. I didn't have to do that. I just had to use my brain and think for not even a second. I already knew that was gonna happen. That was blatant that was gonna happen, in which this is why being for common sense is utterly perfect. 'Cause it works. Now, that is actually where I'm going to be leaving off today's video. Not a whole lot to say, but I wanted to make this video because as I stated, it's been 3 days, I'm late, I'm sorry once again, been busy, but I have one more thing just to make note of. And, you know, maybe this is a problem of mine. Perhaps maybe like a self-esteem problem or something of that sort. But I personally, I make videos, I do politics, and so there's a lot of like good comments, you know, people in agreement with what I say, and then there's a lot of comments of people who just dislike me. And something that I have always taken pleasure in doing is always reading the muted section of my comment section. You know, like YouTube, when people write comments that are just abhorrent, YouTube is like, oh, I'm gonna hold that one aside, and you can figure out if that's a comment you allow or not. I love going through that section because then I get to see like the scathing dislike of people, and I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'll be completely frank. I'm disappointed because I go there to enjoy seeing what kind of creative dislike comments people can say against me, and they're all boring. They're bland. I still think the most creative one that I have received, now granted, perhaps it is creative because this was at a point in time where I was still unconfident with my own voice being on on here, so maybe that is why. But someone, I don't know who, but I read the comment and they said something to the effect of like, I sound like I have a birth defect. That actually hit me in the feels, and I was like, yeah, that's good. Because I want the entertaining dislike comments, because nowadays they're just boring. They're copy-paste, boring dislike comments. And so I'm going to make a contest. Now, once again, be careful. Don't want your channel to get wiped off of YouTube here. I'm gonna create a contest. I want you to, if you are like the 1% viewer who is still watching, go into the comments and try and make some scathing comment about me. Something like, try and get me in the feels, you know? And on X, on my X account, I will rank the best, the top 3 best worst comments. The best top 3, okay? I will rank them, and then in the next video, I will comment on it and be like, this was good because X, Y, and Z, okay? The contest for today is, I guess, dislike me. That's the contest. I want to reinvigorate creativity when it comes to disliking me, okay? Dislike me for creative reasons other than just copy paste, because copy paste gets boring over time and you're like, ugh, read this, done that, and you move past. I want something that makes me remember those comments, because those are always fun. Anywho, I might have a mental problem. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then, I hope that you have a good one.